Welcome to Energy Work and Healing. I'm Tricia George, an energy healer and intuitive guide, here to help you reconnect with your body, your energy, and your truth. This podcast is all about blending spiritual integrity with practicality, offering grounded insights, energy tools, and real conversations to support your healing journey. Whether you're just beginning or deep into your process, you are in the right place. Let's dive into this together. Personal power, confidence, self-worth, and energetic boundaries. Welcome to Energy Work and Healing, where we're going to dive deep into the inner flame of our energy awareness, personal power, and self-worth, as well as our energetic boundaries in our third chakra, which is all about our solar plexus. Where's your solar plexus? It's right above your navel and right at the base of your sternum. So it sits kind of right where your belly is located. And it works with the element of fire. So the first chakra was earth, second chakra was water. Now we're diving into the third chakra, which is all about the flame, our inner flame, and how we use that fire energy to expand or contract in order for us to move forward in our daily lives. This is constructed of 10 different cones on your soul wheel and your spirit wheel. And the color of this energy center is yellow. So, what is this energy center all about? Well, our third chakra, if we remember about the first is about the word. The second chakra is about the sentence. The third is about the paragraph. And that paragraph has to do with our emotions. And our emotions make us feel deeply connected to the sacral chakra, right? That first chakra and the second chakra simultaneously. So the first, second, and third chakras are all earth-bound chakras that help us ground, process information, and allow ourselves to feel the feelings we need to have and have the emotions that are associated with those feelings so we can experience. And then that way we can actually have that expression or that knowingness and then let it go when we no longer need it, when it no longer serves us. So we let the information sort of move through our auric layers, right? So it's coming into our auric field and it's going to end up typically within the third, second, or first chakra, depending on how pliable we are, right? How do we let things pass through us? Do we have our protection up or a barrier or a membrane, or are we letting it just sort of like be guarded or protected there? So how are we utilizing our auric field? Because how we utilize our auric field matters so much in how we let our chakras send and receive information. And sometimes we can be drawn to this energy center as our body responds to what's going on around it, right? In and out throughout our lives. We're dealing with people, relationships, interactions, and engagements all the time. And sometimes our reactions are on point where we're on it, we know what's going on, but other times we can be way off, right? Because we start creating a story with our information that says that we're not safe or something's a threat to us. So we kind of get worried and we might have like butterflies in our stomach, we might get shaky hands or legs, people clench their jaw and they'll even hold their breath. And these are all symptoms of the third chakra, which is tied to our emotions, becoming activated. And our body's trying to tell us, hey, something's going on here. Not sure how to deal with this, not sure what to do, right? So it's looking for insight, but then we tend to jump out of our body because we're like, oh my God, this is too deep and too intense. I'm out of here, right? So we want to be conscious of how we can use our third chakra for our inner power to move us forward through our will in our daily lives, because we want to understand that the body, when it's going through those experiences of like vibrating, right, shaking, or butterflies, it's not processing the information thoroughly. So, what do I mean by that? So, it could be getting stuck in an auric layer. Say it's stuck in the third auric layer and it's vibrating because we don't know how to react, we don't know how to respond. So, we don't give ourselves, in essence, enough time to process what occurred to us, right? So we're holding it there and it's just vibrating in our third auric layer, touches the second auric layer or the first, and it's also activating the first, second, and third chakras, right? And our body starts to shake or it starts to have butterflies, or we might feel nauseous in our belly because the body's trying to say, hey, I'm in a mayday situation. I need some help here. And sometimes just by slowing down and trying not to come into sort of a anxiety state can help ourselves sort of process the information and promote self-development, because we're sort of risking our emotions in our energy bodies, right? But then when it comes into our physical body, we're actually feeling it, right? We can sense it even more deeply because our body is sort of reacting, outwardly. We're actually having a sensation. And that's when we feel overwhelmed, where those feelings and emotions are starting to manifest in the physical because they went right through the auric layer and then pow, 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 right into the chakras, right? We had no barrier, we had no protection up. So our membrane was translucent. So we want to be able to use our membrane, which we'll learn later in this series, in order to strengthen and hold our space so we can slow down, not become overwhelmed, and be conscious of what's going on rather than living in an unconscious state and just letting our feelings and our emotions get the better of us. So, when these emotions sit in our body for so long, like let's just take anger for instance, or maybe stress, and we're living in a stress state all the time. It's like we're on a runaway train that will not leave the station. So, and it just keeps going and going and going, and it doesn't want to stop. There's no breath, right? So it's telling us that we're in a stress state, stress response. And this, when it's over the long term, can result in digestive issues, autoimmune disorders, liver problems, or intestinal issues. For me, a lot of times I see my clients with pain in their liver. And that just tells me that they're holding on to anger. It could even be in their uterus, where they're holding on to pain, unresolved emotions. So they're storing them there because we love to store things in our body and we want it to clear out. We don't want to hold anything. Because what happens when we hold that information, right, that we don't need anymore? Yes, we had an experience. Yes, it might have been not the way we hoped or anticipated it would turn out, right? But we had it. We can't go back, right? It's already there. It's already happened. So if we can start to let go of that, it'll lessen the self-doubt that we have about ourselves. We could also be facing insecurities and judgments at the same time. But in a sense, we're not trusting our gut instincts, which is actually one of the three minds that I see within our physical form. And if we're not paying attention to our gut, we're going to start feeling symptoms because the body's going to say, I can't deal with this too much longer. What are you going to do about it? It's asking for help, you know? So we want to try to do our best to process our feelings and our emotions in a healthy manner rather than holding on to them and storing them in our physical body. Because when the third chakra is functioning well and is in balance, we are confident, right? We're courageous. We're establishing healthy boundaries with others. We're saying no, not because we don't want to do something. We're saying no to establish a boundary, to set limitations. So we're not giving too much of ourselves. Because when we give too much of ourselves and we're not full, we're going to become tired, weak, restless, insecure, unstable. So we want to try to have a sense of balance and harmony in all the relationships that we create and know that our daily experience is sort of there for us, right? So we want to know that we're actually going through something to learn, to grow, right? So we want to be able to move, have our emotions, and then let them go, just out of our space. Later on, I'll teach you a tool called blowing roses where you can blow the emotions out of your space. Even if you feel it going out away from you in a balloon, anything that will serve the purpose of giving you the feeling of letting go is the best way to sort of let go of those darn emotions. We don't need them 24/7 in our space. That's just the ego holding on to information that no longer serves it. We want to be careful while we're doing this process of healing that we're not continuously judging ourselves because many people will judge themselves in the third chakra, or they're going to try to control every narrative that comes towards them. That could be any relationship, any business transaction where they want control because they're so afraid of change and they don't know how to process, right? So they want everything to stay the same. They don't want anything in their box to change, right? So this is someone where you know that they want everything done a specific way. And if it's not that done that way, look out, right? They're just like, they just don't stop. So we want to be able to understand that they're having a third chakra issue, that their attempt to control themselves or the people that are around them, and this includes family, friends, coworkers, they're micromanaging anyone who comes in contact with them. But in essence, it is their fear that is causing the need to have control of themselves or others. So it just depends on what they've experienced before and why they're using control to make them feel, right? Second chakra, as if they're safe. But this is a false sense of control because in reality, you're not only constricting yourself, right? When you're controlling your life in every situation, when there's a lot of resistance, right? But you're also controlling others. And this blocks your inner power. And it actually snuffs out the fire in your third chakra. Because many times I can see this chakra like a charred piece of coal where it's so black, but I could see like the embers inside still a little red. And that's because while they're trying to control, they're displaying feelings of unhappiness, unworthiness, frustration, irritability, and they see that nothing in their life is going as planned. And it's happening that way because they're in resistance. Control equals resistance each and every time. Okay. Boundaries are much different. Boundaries where you're setting the rules and they're not to hurt anybody. They're there to say, I want to have a healthy relationship with you. And by me setting these limitations, I know we're going to be able to communicate better. No one's going to be taking advantage of the other. And we're going to have a healthy space where we both have the capacity to be in a safe place and share communication for each other that is healthy, right? No one's got an agenda. You're communicating your truth and you're letting people know how you feel right away. That's all a boundary is. You don't have to give a reason why. It's your decision. You can have that. So allow yourself to try boundaries. Maybe the first step is going to be looking in the mirror and just saying the word to yourself, no, I don't want to. Or maybe you're going to say, let me get back to you on that. I can't answer that for you right now. Give yourself some time to process. Because sometimes when people ask for information, right, they're asking for a question or a want from us, we feel like we have to answer right away. But we don't have to. We can take our time, baby steps. Give yourself a breath. Let me think about it. Oh, that's a no. I didn't say it was a no. I said, let me think about it. I need to process the information that you're asking of me. And if you respect me, then you're going to give me that space and time. I appreciate you asking, right? So you're creating healthy boundaries with other individuals. And then career space is a big one. In the third chakra, I tend to see career space from like 1 o'clock to, or sorry, 12 o'clock to about 3 o'clock. And that's sort of where I see people's careers and how they're dealing with their career. Are they tired of their job? Do they love their job? Do you stay with it just because it pays the bills, right? Or do you stick with it for fear that if you were to get a different job, you'd actually have to learn something new and you feel like you don't have the capacity to learn? But those are all judgments, right? Inadequacies where you're saying you're not enough to have what you desire. But what if you, through your inner power and your will, had the ability to do and have a career that serves you in a manner that you feel fulfilled and deserving, right? Where you deserve to have something that you enjoy to do, for the majority of your day. And how can you allow yourself to have that? We're all in service in some manner, in some way, shape, or form. But how can you develop an appreciation to serve another as well as yourself, right? We have to make a choice that we can change, that we can try something new, that we can experiment, and we can see how life goes, right? Give it a try. Who says we have to stay in a job for 30 years, right? Give yourself the opportunity to try, experience, and learn through, right? Through your life. You're not staying stagnant out of fear, right? False energy appearing real. Because what's holding you back? Really? You can't blame another. You can't make excuses all the time. Decide to make a change for yourself and no one else. Just pick one item of your life. If the career area feels too big or too intimidating, try something else. Maybe write it down. Record an audio of yourself affirming this for you, what you're seeking to receive, to have, right? I always say be careful of the word want because when you want something, you're already in the wanting. So you already got that. You already received that. But if we have it, if we receive it, that means it's coming to us, right? It's already here. I'm holding it already. It's in my dominion. It's right here. So, but if I want it, it's all the way out there, and I'm just going to constantly have that want over and over and over again. So, you want to give yourself permission to have through your third chakra, and you want to be able to allow it to be there without judgment. Okay. And now when our third chakra is in overdrive, so what do I mean by that? Just in surplus, where the chakra might be really big, right? It might be the size of our waist, and it's sort of spinning like an out of control amoeba, and we might find here that we're placing very high expectations on ourselves and others and hoping that whatever we're trying to create creates a specific outcome that serves us. But when it's rotating and it's sort of wild and all over the place, it creates sort of a sense of um, uncontrolled energy, right? Where sometimes we might have a lot of energy when it's over here, and then we go dipping down, and then we're back to having some energy. So it's like being on a roller coaster, right? And what happens when it's like this and it's irregular, right? We're in surplus and it's sort of amoeba-like. That's where we can have outbursts, reactions, strong urges to control somebody else, right? And this is where we're saying we're not safe in our will. We don't know how to move forward through our will chakra. So we're going to project all our stress and anxiety out to the world onto other people, which is not healthy, right? So you want to try to be aware of where you are holding pain. Are you holding it in the chakra? Now, I like to read a chakra like a clock, right? So are you holding it between 10 and 12? Are you holding it between 4 and 6, right? Where have you buried the pain or your unresolved emotional wounds? And can we come to a place with our third chakra to try to find homeostasis and balance? Because when the third chakra is imbalanced, even when we try to force an outcome, right? We're using force, we're not using power. It often leads to frustration and a lingering sense of disappointment because the real issues lie within us. We're just not giving ourselves time to face them and feel them fully, right? We're feeling in our second chakra. We're having the experience in our first, but the emotions are sitting in our third, right? So we want to be careful of how we do that. So a person that has a really hard time and is in excess, right, in surplus in their third chakra, you may find that individual storing water weight, where all of a sudden it's like they feel like in their hands, in their body, where they're accumulating water because they're experiencing the weight gain in an attempt to stabilize the body. The body will actually hold or retain water in order to try to ground itself. So we want to be very careful of how we use our inner power. And too much water in the body, what chakra is that, right? It's the second chakra. So we're having too many feelings that are unfiltered. They're not processing through our energy centers and it's getting stuck. So it's just filling up our third chakra with water instead of fire. So the body's constantly trying to compensate and balance itself. And that's also happening within the chakra system. And when our chakras are misaligned and they're not operating at their full potential, we tend to live in a state of survival, right? In the first chakra, and we're dealing with the stress of the third. So they're all interrelated, especially these three, right? We don't want our feelings in the second chakra to run rampant. We want to create a healthy environment in our subtle energy bodies. Because when someone is also say we're not in excess, say we're depleted, right? We're in shortage. So that means, right, like it's tight like a fig. So a healthy chakra is like 6 to 8 inches. This is tight, small, right? Maybe 3 inches, 2 inches, you know. But here the person might feel like they don't have any power, like they're powerless and that they're stuck and that there's no point in even trying to change their life. This is someone who might be sticking with the same career and be miserable in this job. And then I'll ask, like, how many years have you been in there? And then I'll see that they've been there for like 25 years, but they never even gave themselves an opportunity to try something else, and they're too afraid, of change in their life. Something might happen. Yeah, you actually might enjoy your second job, instead of staying in that one that's just like lingering there just because you feel safe, right? Because you know how to get to work, or you know what it's like, or you know what they are expecting of you. But how can you give yourself permission to not be defeated, right? Or sort of escape reality by staying stagnant? Right? So instead of facing maybe your life's path or your dreams or desires, you're holding yourself, you're restricting yourself, and it stops you from facing your reality in a way because it just leaves you in a homeostasis where you're just, flatlined, you know, and that's sort of an escapism in a way. So we want to be very conscious of this. Other people may dive into, with a shortage, like dive into video games or endless scrolling on their telephone, or other distractions that help them avoid the discomfort of taking action in order to process their feelings. Right? It's too much work. It's too much energy. Why do I want to think about that again? But what happens with that? We start to get numb. We start struggling to make life decisions, and we often feel like, life is working against us, and this mentality very frequently stems from like a victim mentality where it's a deep-seated belief that the world is out to get them. And that in itself will make you feel overwhelmed. It'll make you feel unworthy to receive things because no one's out to get you. No one, again, I'm going to say this in every session, I think. No one can make you feel bad without your own consent. You may feel overwhelmed. You may feel lost for a time or unable to manage your basic daily tasks, but it will get easier once you allow yourself time to process. Process your feelings, process your stories, and process your emotions. Try not to tell yourself beliefs and negative programs that don't serve who you are. How can you raise your vibration? How can you bring the energy higher rather than bringing it low, right? So we want to be aware of that because there's so much that goes on. We're inundated with information 24/7, right? And even on top of that, we even have relationships, right? We're in relationship with everybody we interact with. So they also can make you feel stuck or wanting to have a relationship, right? But because you're so afraid to even try to engage with somebody for fear of being hurt in your heart chakra, you isolate and put yourself in sort of an emotional paralysis. And that's not healthy either. We don't want to do anything that's in surplus or in shortage, and excessive or deficient, right? We want middle. When we realize we're in our middle, that's when we're in our center. And when we're in our center, we are living in the present moment. We're not worrying about the future, what might happen if I get to a relationship, or we're not worrying about what might happen if I try a new job, right? And we're not worrying in our past, well, someone hurt me, and it really hurt and I'm scared to get hurt again. So that stops it from coming to you, right? That's a deficiency. That's a shortage. So we want to stay somewhere in the center where we deserve to have, we can receive, and all we have to do is keep our energy frequency higher, right? 200 hertz or higher. 200 hertz is courage. That's your first step, is that word, courage. And that's all about your third chakra. Because if you give yourself permission to create your life and allow yourself to have expansion, you can actually take your flame and radiate it outward, right? You can radiate the movement, the energy of fire to burn away anything that doesn't serve you any longer. And then you're allowing that flame to breathe through you and have the experience through your well. And this gives you the opportunity to live your life in an authentic, genuine manner and not where you're feeling like there's nothing left for you to do, that you have no life purpose, because that's a false limiting belief that you're holding. So we want to learn how to harness energy in the first, second, and third chakras. Remember, these connect you to your earthly experiences and it redirects the energy that's holding you back, that's stopping you from moving forward in your life. And how can you give yourself permission to utilize your willpower in the third chakra to create your life, to create your relationships, to create your career? Take time for yourself. Take a self-care day, even if it has to be on a Sunday, on a day you're not working. Shut off your cell phone, tune everything out, and start going inward. Start reflecting on who you are, what you're choosing to create for yourself, and allow yourself to have that. Thank you so much for joining me here today as we explored the powerful energy of the third chakra. Remember, this is in your solar plexus and it has 10 cones. This is the seat of your will, your confidence, your inner fire, right? Always envision like a candle flame right in front of your solar plexus. And that flame stands tall and sturdy and steady. And when you need to, you can expand that flame when you need more power, or you can bring it back to its stable location. I hope this energy resonates with what you are going through at this present moment and provides clarity, purpose, and healthy boundaries. At least the direction to start looking into your third chakra. If anything that we talked about stirred something in you, whether it was a realization or a discomfort or maybe a spark of inspiration, take a moment to journal about it, breathe into it, or even place your hands over your solar plexus and just feel. Just sit back and feel that energy for a moment. You're allowed to take up space. You're allowed to say yes and acknowledge what lights you up and what dims your light. Until next time, keep tending to your inner flame with love and trust. Your power is sacred and it's safe to own it. Allow yourself permission to have that. Own it and allow those three chakras to work together rather than in resistance with one another. Until next time.
Thank you for joining me on Energy Work and Healing. If today's episode resonated with you, be sure to subscribe, share it with someone who might need it, and leave a review. Remember, your energy matters, and your healing helps heal the world. Here, we honor the path of blending spiritual integrity with practicality so you can walk empowered, aware, and aligned. Until next time, stay grounded, stay open, and keep listening to the wisdom found within.